My name is Elizabeth Logan Harris. I live in New York City. I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. My family has been on almost every side in Virginia for a really long time, before slavery in some cases. 1610, 1621 are the earliest ones I can find. I've spent the last at least 20 years studying the enslavers and the enslaving history of my family, which goes back over 2.5 centuries, as far as I can tell. Certainly in Virginia, but before that, or concurrent with that, in the cane field work camps in Barbados. And then also I have have ancestors who enslaved people in the rice fields in South Carolina and the sugar cane work camps in Louisiana. The Louisiana connection also ties to robber baron industrialists in the North whose wealth was predicated on that enslavement. In Virginia, the story is certainly the smaller planter society that relied on the enslaved workers and held them captive for generations. But one of the unusual aspects is that my family held slaves in coal mines near Richmond. A lot of people don't realize there were coal mines near Richmond, which are now defunct. But before they drew coal from the Appalachians, they relied on this bituminous, more gaseous coal that was a dangerous process to extract, and my family enslaved men and boys in the coal pits in Chesterfield County, Virginia for at least three decades before the Civil War. And this coal was sold up and down the Atlantic seaboard, so the national economy was certainly involved in supporting this enterprise. There were many explosions in these pits killing enslaved people, and there were also white workers in these pits, and many of them were from the UK, sponsored by my family to come over here, and there were also free black people working in the pits. When there was an explosion before the Civil War, the newspapers would not report the names of the people of color who had died in the pits. With the emancipation, this changed. I'm not sure a whole lot else changed for these people who remained working in the coal mines, but their names were listed in the papers after that. But the listings always separated the colored, quote, colored from the white. In South Carolina, my family was in the planter families. They were rice planters, but there were also many judges, doctors, magistrates who upheld the slaveholding economy through policies and other things. And one of the most upsetting, distressing finds for me was to find the estate inventory of a Dr. Glover in South Carolina who owned over 150 people at the time of his death in 1850. And his son, while taking the inventory, found that he valued everything in this man's possession at his death, including the people he quote unquote owned. And I noticed that the total for these people was some 56,000 and something and 1 penny. And I thought, this is an odd number. And I looked back, and one of the people, a man named, quote, Old Yellow Ben, was valued at 1 penny. Finding that, though I knew already by then, and I was deep into my research, was really breathtaking. For many reasons, of course, just to value a person at a penny. Also, the fact that he was Old Yellow Ben means that he was a light-skinned man, and very likely a relation of the man giving him value of 1 penny. So, that there have just been so many finds like that over these years that I've been researching this, that I couldn't possibly tell you all of them, but this is this has brought me to a place of feeling that and understanding more about what we have to do in terms of reparative work and reparations. I'm involved in the arts, and with my family, we're all involved in the arts. We've done some work to try to expand access for people of color in various arts organizations that we belong to or involved in, or administratively and otherwise. I'm also working with linked descendants, and by which I mean people who are descended from people that were enslaved by my family, to do some restoration and preservation of enslaved graveyards in Chesterfield County, Virginia, and to rectify markers and change and revise markers there to represent and to tell the truthful story of the coal pits and what really went on there in terms of the labor force and the accidents and explosions. There are some markers, but they are not accurate. So those are some of the pieces of work that I'm doing. I feel like this is lifetime work. This is not work that I'm going to do and finish. Just like my feelings about this have evolved for so long over, of course, guilt and shame that we all can maybe relate to, but I feel like that's kind of an easy and often weaponized term, and I think we have to think more about some of the epigenetics in the white experience, which have worn down our ability to empathize, and I think conditioned out of us some of our community building skills, and have also encouraged us to compartmentalize and tolerate injustice. And these things have all contributed to systemic racism and to the political environment we have today. So I feel like this is lifetime work, and I will be engaged in it for the rest of my life.